Welcome to Complete Edition, the podcast between a PlayStation Trophy Hunter and an Xbox Achievement Hunter. This is episode 20. I'm your host, Compulsive Nerd, and I'm joined by AJ. How you doing, AJ?
I'm doing well. Yeah, things have been crazy since we last recorded. Microsoft are in the process of acquiring Activision, and Sony just announced they're buying Bungie. So, we're not a news show, so, I don't think we should go into it, and you've probably heard, the listeners probably heard thousands of takes and coverage about all of this already. But just a crazy 2 weeks in terms of industry stuff happening.
Yeah, we were just kind of waiting to see what Sony does, and this was the answer. And we talked about it before the show, but I don't really have much to say about it. I don't like Destiny, so I don't care. I just don't care. But dude, I had a hectic ass morning. First off, I got my rent figured out, situated, and then my power went out, and I was trying to get this episode ready, and I was like, fuck, am I going to be able to record? What's going on? And then earlier this week, I put my OLED remote through the washer, and that scared the shit out of me, because I was like, oh no, it's not going to work. I'm going to have to buy a new remote or something. And it works still. I don't know how the fuck it works still, but it does. And so that worked out, but man, it feels like it's been a hectic 2 weeks. I also started getting back on my routine. So back in November, I mentioned this, but I started to work out, and I started to eat more, and I started to eat healthier, cooking. And I kind of started doing that again. I Monday, Wednesday, Friday are my workout days. So today, actually, after I record the podcast, I got to go do leg day, but I'm ready to cook, and I'm making Chipotle bowls so that I can just eat this ungodly amount of food, and I have no limit. You know what I mean? Just beans, rice, and meat, and then I can sprinkle in other stuff, sour cream or cheese or greens or whatever the fuck, tomatoes, and I can just eat so much. I've already gained 4 or 5 pounds, and I'm just gonna keep going. I'm just gonna keep eating a shit ton and working out. But it's good to be back on that, because back in November I started it, and then I got sick. I got really sick. I was that cough lasted forever, dude. I even recorded a couple shows. Pretty sure we recorded 3 shows after, which is 6 weeks, and I still had the cough. It was absolutely shitty. Just so shitty. And so now that I'm healthy and I'm ready and I'm back. But yeah, I totally want to hear what you're chasing, because I'm gonna go last. Dude, most episodes I usually go first.
Yeah.
So it'd be great to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I'm glad things are going well for you with all the exercise and the dieting. That's great to hear. It's so hard to find time for absolutely everything, to have a full wellness thing, and then to keep up with obligations in terms of work and leisure and everything. But in terms of what I've been playing, it was pretty quiet. I was kind of in a slump after the last couple of weeks. I was playing Nobody Saves the World, and I'm enjoying that. I still need to finish it. And then I also, thanks to Ubisoft, I was playing Rainbow Six Extraction before it came out. And it's pretty good, although I'd say it's a bit bare bones, and it's technically very polished, but it's not too enjoyable to play. I didn't find it very addicting. It all works. I didn't have any glitches, but the gameplay loop was sort of only okay, not amazing. And then, so I only played that for a bit. I've only played about, an hour of that game. Then, multiplayer, playing Halo Infinite, there was another event. I'm at 115 hours now for that game. Still going, have 1 achievement left, and the achievement was meant to be live, but it is glitched. It doesn't work for some reason, which is really annoying. They need to fix it. I hope they fix it soon, because no one can get the final achievement, which is really awkward. It's also going to be quite hard to get as well, so I'm glad, I didn't get the achievement requirements for it, but other people on forums did, and they were like, I did it, and then I did it again, and it took me hours, and it doesn't unlock, so that kind of sucks, big time. But whenever they patch it, I'll go back, get the final achievement, get the completion. I finished It Takes Two as well. I don't know if I talked about that last time, but great game. It's my first completion of the year that's a real completion, and I'm happy about that. And then this last week, I played a game called The Pedestrian. It's on Game Pass. It was a game that I think was on PS4 and PS5 as a timed exclusive for a bit, but when it launched on Xbox, it launched into Game Pass. And it's a short completion. It took me about 2 hours, but it's a polished game. It's a puzzle platformer. It's not, shovelware. I'd give it probably a 6 out of 10. I really like, towards the end, the amount of mechanics they add in, and they totally, I don't want to spoil it, because I do recommend people check it out if they get time, although it's not something, people should rush out and play. The ending, the final few levels, totally flipped the script in a way I didn't expect, and I thought that was really, really cool and really creative. And I really like the aesthetic of the game as well. You're sort of on these like road signs, like doing puzzle platforming, and the background is this city or like a subway or like a sewer or like a university, and that's quite cool. And some of the puzzles are pretty mind bending. I recommend not necessarily following a guide, but having a guide with you. So like if you get stuck and you just feel like bashing your head against a wall, you can have that there for safety. And then finally, sort of a really unexpected spur of the moment thing, I started playing Condemned Criminal Origins, which is from Monolith, the developers of Fear and the developers of Shadows of Mordor and Shadows of War. They're developing the new Wonder Woman game as well. And I have quite a bit to say about this game. So, this game came out in 2005. It was an Xbox 360 launch title, and it's backwards compatible on Series X, which is awesome. I love that I can get it digitally and just like play it, not have to like find a potentially overpriced disc. Although I do like physical media as well. I have Condemned 2 physically, and I got it a few years ago. But it's one of those game series where like I was interested in it and something came along and then I never played it, and then all of a sudden it's been like 17 years or whatever, and it's like, oh, I've never played this series, but I heard good things about both Condemned and Condemned 2. And so I checked it out. But a few things to say about it. I've finished it now. First of all, because this game was a launch title, they hadn't really figured out achievements yet. And so this game has 970 gamerscore. It's 30 gamerscore short of the full 1,000. And it's got 50 achievements. So 50 achievements is pretty like normal to see. Like that's pretty standardized, but it's divided into 970, which is weird. The other thing is that it makes me kind of sad for Monolith, because I really like this game. I think this game's really interesting and unique, and I really love the Fear series as well. And I think it was quite cool to have another like AAA horror thriller developer and sort of these first person combat games. I think that's really interesting. Condemned is melee focused and Fear is more, shooter focused. And it makes me kind of sad that I think we've seen this in the industry more broadly in recent years, where Monolith now, they make Lord of the Rings games, and now they're making a Wonder Woman game. And I feel pretty tired of licensed IP and developers just sort of stuck making licensed games all the time, because I really like seeing new IP. Condemned being something where you play it and it's sort of scary and you don't know what to expect when you play it, because you put it on and you're like, this is a new IP, this is a new universe, they can do anything here. Whereas when you play like Shadows of Mordor or this Wonder Woman game that's coming up, you kind of know what to expect, and some of the surprise and the thrill is taken out of it, I think. And I think it's quite sad that you have like a developer like that that's just tied to licensed IP and then make 3 licensed IP games in a row, and seems to be no end in sight with that. And there's a few developers that are doing that kind of thing. And I worry that, it's especially true for Marvel and Star Wars, right? That there's just so much Marvel and Star Wars stuff coming out that you just feel oversaturated. So then for game development studios to be doing that as well, like contributing to that oversaturation, I think it kind of sucks. But at the same time, that the counterpoint to that is that a lot of these licensed games are good games. So, it's not like, I'd rather have like a good game than a bad game at any time. So, the fact that they're good doesn't mean it's like the end of the world. It's kind of like a first world problem in that sense, like a super first world gamer problem in terms of just like, oh no, Insomniac or Monolith made this, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 game, but it's a licensed IP, So I don't want to sound like I'm complaining too much, but it still made me reflect on what this studio was and what they did and what they do now, and how I feel like they were much more interesting and exciting. Like, I feel like if they kept with doing like original stuff, I feel like when I see them at an event or whatever and their logo comes up, I'd be like, oh shit, what am I going to get? Like, what are they going to do now? Like, this is crazy. But now that they're just part of like WB and, making all these licensed IP games, it's like, it's less interesting. I see their logo come up and I don't feel the excitement as much as I used to. And so I think that's quite sad. And this game's interesting because it's like made by Monolith, who I think were owned by WB, but the game was published by Sega. So it was kind of like these 3 companies dealing with this game. And I had a great time with it as well. It's a short game, which I appreciate. It took me about 5 to 7 hours to get the full 1,000 points, or the full 970 points rather. And I think it's got this The story kind of sucks. I think the story's interesting from like a world perspective, but not from like a narrative, like what's happening perspective. And it gets kind of goofy towards the end as well. But in terms of the levels, they're all really interesting. I love the combat system, and the AI in this game is fantastic. There's guns in this game, but it's mostly melee combat. And when you get a gun, it feels like super powerful because you like shoot a guy twice and he's dead. And if you shoot them once, they're totally like they react to being shot, realistically as well. And you find guns so rarely that it feels really cool when you get one. And then enemies can have guns as well. And so you're like, oh shit, like if I've got like a lead pipe and you've got like a pistol, like I've got to be really careful about how I approach you. And the game does something that it's crazy to me this game came out in 2005 because this game as well, when enemies attack you with a gun, if you kill them before they shoot the gun a few times, when you kill them and pick up their weapon, that ammo is conserved. So sometimes, if you're really bad at killing a guy with a gun, you'll kill him and then pick up his gun and then find it has 0 bullets in it. And so you're like, oh fuck, like I screwed it up. I could have had so much ammo for this gun and like killed the next few enemies for free, basically. Or if you're like really good, you like kill a guy before he's even fired a shot, and then you've got like 4 shotgun shells or like 15 pistol bullets, and you're like, oh, this is amazing. So it really rewards skill, and the fact that it keeps track of that is so cool. I love it, and the levels are really great as well. There's a good variety. Like you go into like the underground subway, you go into this department store level, which is amazing. Enemies disguise themselves as like mannequins, and you sort of you're not quite sure if an enemy is a mannequin or a mannequin, and that really adds to it. And in that department store as well, you start like hallucinating as well. It's just a really great level. And there's so many great levels. It's just a fantastic game, and I'm really glad I finally got to it. The only thing that sort of annoys me is that Condemned 2, which I want to play, I've heard it's worse, and also it's not backwards compatible for some reason. So I still own an Xbox 360, so I've got it set up now to play it because I want to try it. And the other annoying thing about Condemned 2 is it has a tacked on multiplayer mode that has a bunch of achievements tied to it. So I'm never going to get the completion, but I still want to play it. So
That's super cool, dude. Like that is crazy that it was made in 2005 and it has that kind of detail, those kind of details. Like games today still don't even do that. Like they should. It'd be awesome.
Well, yeah, when you play like Call of Duty, if you don't kill an enemy, they just infinitely shoot at you. Like they'll just keep shooting at you forever, and it won't keep track of their ammo. And then what happens when you kill them? You pick up their gun, and their gun sort of has like a random amount of ammo in it, like it's totally just randomly generated. And Call of Duty, modern game probably has like a $200 million budget or whatever. And then, yeah, you go back to a game like Condemned, and it's like that guy fired both of his shotgun shells, and now he's like running up to try and bash me with the gun. And when I kill him, it's not going to have any ammo in it. And it's just awesome. It's really a great detail that game has. And the AI is so good as well. What they'll do is like if you damage them, they'll run away from you, and they'll like run around a corner and then hug the wall. And so like they're like faking you out, like kind of baiting that they're still running away. So if you chase after them, they'll like spring out from the corner like mid melee swing to like hit you. So it's like there's a level of tension, and the AI is really smart in that way. They're less smart in the sense that sometimes they'll like try and stand behind a pillar, and you can see like their arm hanging out from the side, and it's like I know you're there, bro. Like I'm not gonna run into you. But so sometimes it's a bit janky, but sometimes it works. And it's just really impressive that they thought of that, like to script the AI in that way. And then there's some other stuff with the AI, with the combat system, where if you move forward while you swing, or move left or right or backwards, your melee weapon has like a different animation, like it's based on the movement and the input of the swing. And your enemies also have really diverse movesets. And the way the block mechanic works is the block is kind of like a parry, in that when you press the block button, your character like lifts whatever weapon they've got up to block, but they only do it for like a couple of seconds, and then it comes back down, and then there's like a short cooldown before you can do it again. So it's not really like a block that you can hold. You sort of have to time it right. And what enemies will do is they'll feint attacks, which is super annoying, but also super cool, where they'll like lift up their pipe or whatever to like be about to hit you, but they'll actually just be baiting you to wait for you to block, and then after you block, then they'll hit you. So it's like the enemies and the combat in this game is so cool, and the AI is so impressive for that year. And Monolith are famous for having great AI because Fear also has amazing AI. And so this game, we've talked about Halo before and how I'm a big Halo fan, and something those games do amazingly from the first person, shooter perspective is having this really great AI with how the grunts and the elites and how the jackals have all different behavior, and the behaviors sort of quite complex and interesting. And the enemies will rush you and they'll fall back and they'll freak out and they'll panic and they'll respond to stuff in their environment. And this game has this as well. And so it's really like being like first person horror, really cool combat system, really great AI, really great audio design as well. The audio is amazing in this game in terms of like it feels like like modern audio, like modern top tier audio, in that you can hear like enemies like breathing or like around you. Like you can really pinpoint where people are based on that. And yeah, it's a great game. It's a short completion, which is awesome. You don't have to spend hundreds of hours in it, and the game's difficulty seems tuned quite well. I will say you do get a taser, and the taser's very overpowered because the taser has a cooldown and infinite ammo, and you can just like when you tase a guy, like he's out of commission basically. Like he's not dead, but he's stunned for so long that you get like a few free hits in. And you eventually even get a super taser, which is even more overpowered. So that's kind of unbalanced. You can definitely cheese the game in terms of you could taser one enemy, go up, kill him, wait for your taser to recharge, go get the next enemy, and so like you could play it really boring and laborious to do that. And I recommend you don't, because it's good to get used to the combat system, and the combat system is really satisfying. So that's kind of a shame because it makes you sort of, first of all, it makes you less scared because you sort of like, I can just cheese everything in the game. And then secondly, it cheapens it. You sort of ruin it for yourself if you go that route. So, but yeah, I was really surprised by how much I like the game. The story's pretty weak. That's the main negative, I'd say. But some of the voice acting's cool as well. So I've talked about like all the mechanics, but I've not briefly spoken about sort of the premise for the game. Basically, you're an FBI investigator, and a lot of it's mysterious, so I won't say much. But you're an investigator for the FBI in this like fictitious city. I think it's called like Metro City or something. And you're this is like the worst city in the world. Like, and you go to the worst neighborhoods in the world because there's a bunch of homeless guys that have all gone crazy and a bunch of criminals that have all gone crazy, and they just want to beat you up with pieces of rebar and lead pipes and all that stuff. Sledgehammers, shovels, fire axes, crowbars. There's a lot of melee weapons, and they all function differently, which is quite cool. But yeah, you're essentially in these like dark city streets, these metro stations, these department stores, these sort of catacomb type areas, this orchard, like all these different environments, trying to avoid getting like your head smashed in and occasionally shot, while you try and solve sort of this murder mystery. And the other mechanic in the game, which it's not really done justice in this game, I've heard it's a lot better in the sequel, but you have this like detective stuff where you get to crime scenes in the game, and then you have a bunch of different tools to analyze them, to like analyze fingerprints, to like you have like gas chromatography and stuff like that to investigate these crime scenes. You have like these lasers and stuff like that to try and solve and figure out what's going on. You have a camera as well to take photographs of the evidence. And that's quite tense as well, because when you have the detective tools out, you can't have any weapons out. So you've sort of got to like, you're like nervous while you use these detective tools to like analyze the crime scene, because you're like, what if I get attacked? Or what if I run into enemies while I'm trying to analyze it? But in terms of the actual detective stuff, it's really basic. Like it's literally just, you just aim at the thing that's quite obvious and then click on it, and you basically repeat that a few times. I've heard the second game, where it gets really interesting, is you have multiple choice decisions, and then you get a ranking based on if you make the right decisions. So like if you analyze the crime scene successfully, you get like a different ranking of like perfect, good, bad, or whatever. And then at the end of the chapter, you get like upgrades and different items based on how well you performed as a detective. So I think that's really cool. That's a really cool way to expand on it in a sequel. But as it is in the first game, it's mostly just like a change of pace, sort of letting you do sort of analytical stuff that's slower paced and helps to build up tension. But yeah, really impressed with this game. I'm glad I gave it a try. I mean, it's such a crazy... I'm like this with games where, and I understand a lot of people will find that annoying, where I have like this huge backlog, and I've talked about the backlog here before. And Condemned has never been on the backlog. I've never said it's on the backlog. I'm like, Psychonauts 2, Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm like, I got Disco Elysium. I got to play these games. And then I'm like, nope, I'm going to play this totally random series instead. But I don't know. I just see stuff and I'm just like, I'm in the mood for this. I want to give this a try. I totally forgot about it, but I have it. Let's go. And I just let myself be directed by those spur of the moment things sometimes, and it's worked out really well here because I think this game's fantastic.
That's so funny that you say that, because like I actually stick to my backlog pretty heavily. I definitely plan like what I'm going to play next, and I like look and I see what I'm feeling, but it's kind of awesome that you're able to just be like, oh, I'm curious about this. I'll just jump into it. It's like spur of the moment kind of thing. And that's pretty cool. But
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
you'll never. It's sad, but you'll never play everything that you want to play. I don't think, at least for me. I don't think I'll ever play every single game that I want to play because games keep coming out and more games come out every year, and I've already got a backlog, and it's like there's no way I'll be able to play everything. So to some extent, you have to make sacrifices, and I feel like there's something, I don't know, having like a really rigid backlog. First of all, you can't like force yourself to have fun, is sort of how I see it. And then secondly, it's like if I planned out all of my backlog, I'd be set until like 2050, and I feel like that's kind of depressing that I'd have like this list of stuff that I'm gonna play for like 2 years in a row or whatever, with all the new game releases sprinkled in. So, but obviously as well, I think a balance is best, at least for me, in terms of having stuff scheduled. Like I'm going to be all over Elden Ring when it comes out, probably, and there's other games like that too, like Starfield. I'm excited to give a try. So there's games where I'm like, I see that game far off, and I'm gonna give it time when it comes out, but also to just have that flexibility to just let the mood strike you and let you go in whatever direction.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And, February's stacked. I definitely there's 3 games in February I for sure want to play, and that's Sifu, Dying Light 2 is still kind of a maybe, and then Horizon. But I don't know, having a backlog and like having games whenever I'm done with that is super awesome. And you're right, you're not going to play everything that is on your backlog, and I'm okay with that. I just like to have an idea of what I want to play next. And sometimes I'll look to my library and be like, these are games I already have and I can play them and I don't have to spend any money. So that'll save me some money and I can enjoy these games. But then there's also like, I told you Game of the Year is like one of my favorite times of the year, like specifically the Game Awards. And I see all these nominees from the previous year and I'm like, oh, that actually looks like a game that I would like and it's nominated for an award. It has to be decent. And I will, put that on the backlog. And then when I have time, I'm like, hey, this is a newer game that I think I'll enjoy. So I'll play it. And like, that's kind of how my backlog keeps rolling. And then I throw in like older stuff that people are like, this is a must play. This is a part of video game history. Like you should play these games. And I want to have those games like in my library that I have played and that are something that I got to see and partake in. Like, cause I started with Nintendo, the original Nintendo, when I was younger, because my brother was into gaming and my dad was into gaming, but my dad only had an Atari, and it just kind of goes up from there. And I just am so fascinated with video game history, and I missed out on a couple generations, but this backlog idea has like kind of stuck with me since the beginning of gaming, or what is the mainstream gaming today. And I'm always on top of my backlog. I just love it. I love it. I never feel like there was one time, like I said, it's A Night in the Woods. I said this last podcast. It's the only game I've been recommended that I didn't like, and I didn't do a completion. I played it on Switch so that I didn't have to hunt it. But I mean, I played it to credits. I get it. I get why people like it. I just don't. It reminded me of a horrible time in my life, and I was like, I'm just not gonna. I just don't like this. And that's an experience that I have with a game that's pretty cool. Like, do I regret playing it? No, not at all. But most of the time, I enjoy the games that are recommended. I played Celeste a year after it won like some Game of the Year awards or was nominated for Game of the Year. And that was really fun. That was a really fun game. Played Hades. But my point is, I just love when games get my attention through nominations of awards. And same thing with DICE too, when it rolls around. But jumping into what I was playing, dude, I started Stardew Valley on Vita, and I am discovering something very new and very interesting about myself, is that I love this. This might be one of my favorite games ever. Like I'm hooked on this game. I don't know if it's because it's addictive. I don't know if it's just because of where I'm at. I don't know. I want to play this more than I want to play my console when I'm home. Like, and that's so uncommon for me. It's like I have an OLED, I have 4K games, I have like super awesome, next gen stuff here. And then whenever I'm on the go, I want to play like Stardew Valley and like, do my stuff. But it's like I just want to lay down and play Stardew all night. I did. I played till like I had to work. It was Saturday night maybe that I had to work Sunday morning, and I stayed up until like 1:26. And I looked at the time. I was like, oh shit, I stayed up too late. Like I gotta be into work. I gotta be up at 7. I'm like, oh shit, I gotta go to sleep. But I'm like having so much fun doing my farm. It's like I don't want to go to sleep. I just want to like go and do everything this game has to offer. And maybe it's a genre that I've just been ignorant to, but yeah, Stardew Valley is absolutely up my alley. There's, mining and monsters and combat, and then I can go back and take care of my farm, and then I can get to know the townspeople, which is super awesome because it's character driven. It's like, this is just right up my alley. I'm like, this is so good. And I'm fishing a lot because it's just got so many games and things to do on the side that I can't stop. I'm like, there's so much to do in every day and every season. I just want to keep going. I am going to hunt this game. This is definitely like, I've seen it's like 100-hour platinum, and I think it's going to be more than that for me, but it's something that I'm in love with this game, dude. It's so good. I get why people love it so much, because, I know one guy made it, and I just want to meet him. I just want to meet him and be like, dude, congratulations. This is the coolest shit that you've done. But yeah, and then I finished Tales of Arise, and I love this game. I didn't have to grind too hard after it was over. I just kind of had to go back and clean up, and then there's like this one boss at during one of the side quests, which you have to complete all the side quests to get the platinum, and I just farmed him over and over because he was level like 95, and I just knocked it down to easy and just kind of did it over and over and over again. And whenever I did that, it wasn't even like an hour, and I was max level. I mean, it was not bad grinding, and I got that completion, and I'm super happy about it. So I think that was my second completion on the year. So I had God of War 2 and then Tales of Arise. And then I started, so this is a game between releases, right? So I'm kind of on the clock here with Persona 5 Strikers. Was a PS Plus game, and it's a game that I wanted to play. You've heard me talk about these weeb games. You've heard me talk about Persona. You heard me talk about my hunt on Vita for Persona 4 Golden, and you heard my horrible journey of Persona 5, which I loved. And this game is a sequel, but it's a different style of game, so it's not like as stressful and things like that. I started this game, and I'm maybe 3 hours in, but it's so funny, dude. We talk about sacred symbols and Colin a lot, but Colin is like super OCD about his game clock. And dude, if he knew what I do, he would be so pissed off, because my game clock says like 25 to 30 hours or something like that. I mean, I leave the game running and I'll play Stardew, or I'll go make lunch or whatever the hell, and I'm only 3 hours in. So it's just like the game is constantly sitting idle for me, but I don't care. I don't care because I'm just in this mood with this game, which I'm actually going to transition this right into topic of the show, which is trophy and achievement anxiety. And there's like 2 missable trophies, I think, or something like that. And I'm just afraid that I'm going to miss them. And like the first dungeon like threw me in. I'm already doing combat. I'm already like getting to know these characters. But the thing about this game is like, I don't care about the combat. This is a Muso game, which I've never played before, but it's kind of just slashy, lots of enemies, just kind of mindless. And I don't care about that, but I do care about getting back to the story, because every time the characters come up, I'm like, I know these characters. I spent 100 hours with them, and I just want to like get back to that, and I just want to go through. And I started off on normal, and then the game kicked my ass, and so I dropped it down to easy. And I'm like, damn, this sucks. I wanted to play it on normal, but the difficulty. This is another. Maybe the weeb games are just better at this, but the weeb games are kind of good at controlling, like, the harder the difficulty, the better the rewards. And then you can change them at any time. So that's really nice. And I'm going to, like, if I want to grind faster, I'm just going to increase the difficulty, get that experience. But there's 2 things about this game. Okay. So there's some missable trophies that I'm worried about missing. And then there's also grindy trophies. And hopefully I don't know about this, but god damn, this is going to be extremely mindless. And it's like I said, I've got trophy anxiety, so I don't want to play this game. I want to play Stardew because it's so relaxing and I don't have to worry about anything. But there's like 15 hours of extra grinding just to like get max level. And I'm like, damn, how do I feel about padding the trophy list just to to pad it, because that's ridiculous. That's an extreme amount of time just to get the platinum. And like that happened on Tony Hawk also, where I had to grind just the same level over and over and over just to get the max level, and it was so hard to do. Luckily I had like an audiobook, but there's like a balance of this anxiety, because I actually want to see the story, and I'm enjoying this game. I'm not. It's such a weird problem to have, because I'm not out here just being like, oh, I'm too afraid to play this game. I'm stressed out. I can't play it. It's like I'm ready to enjoy this game. I am having a good time. Like I said, I don't like the combat that much. It's very hack and slash, and I'm still learning, but I have like characters that are my favorite to use, and I'm like, oh, this is way more fun. But then I want to get back to story, so I want to see these story parts, but I just have to like push past. And once I'm past the anxiety and like maybe I get the missable trophies, it's like the rest of it is a cakewalk. It's usually how it goes. But I'm just like curious if you've ever experienced anything like this, or what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, in terms of like trophy or achievement anxiety, I was thinking of a few things while you were talking. Like, I definitely get that, where I like look at the list beforehand, and it plays some role in my decision making. And then there's also almost like achievement and trophy regret in a way, like where you play a game and you're like so deep into the game, and then you're like, ah shit, like I'm enjoying this game, but I'm not like loving this game, and I know I've got so much more to do, and I've got to do like so much to just get the completion, whereas I'd be perfectly content with just beating the game and just playing the game and experiencing the game, like you said with Persona 5, and how relaxing Stardew is. So yeah, I totally get that as well. And we talked before about Hades and how the final grind kind of made me leave that game not as hot as I would have liked to be on it. So I definitely feel that. And over time, it's important to be selective. And then but part of it is it's all in your head as well, right? Like, if you can let yourself let go, if you can just go like fuck it, like I'm not gonna care, and I'm not gonna do it, and then I'm gonna go and I'm gonna be free, then that's sort of maybe the best way out of it, the ideal way out of it. But as achievement hunters and trophy hunters, that's quite difficult to do sometimes. It's almost easier, I find, with games where you like maybe like Rainbow Six Extraction. I have like 5 gamer score in that game, and I kind of feel like I'm not really feeling it. Like, I'll maybe give it another try and do some other stuff in it, but also I'm sort of like, it's almost easier when you've not invested anything into it, where you're like, yeah, it's on my gamer card, but I'm just gonna let it go now. So I don't know what you make of any of that stuff.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I can let go of games. I have done it. I told you about House of Ashes, and the thing is, like, lately, dude, when I have downtime, like maybe I'm in the shower and I'm just thinking about things, I'm just like, I can go back and get that. I can do it. I know I could do it. It's not that hard. It's like 2 more playthroughs. It's like 12 hours. I could do it, and I'd have a platinum. But just for 3 trophies, that seems like a lot of time. Seems like a lot of time just for 3 trophies. But I think about it, and like, it's okay to let games go. Your completion percentage is not going to be fucked. And if I didn't care and I went like right through Persona 5 Strikers, which is actually what I've done, and say I miss it, it's like, oh, I have another playthrough to do. Hopefully that won't be super long, but it's like, I could do that and I can not care, or I could just get 98% or whatever the hell, like 92%, say it's a gold trophy with the missable one. I actually don't know what level they are, but say I miss it, it's like, then my completion percentage is fine. I actually don't care about platinums as much as I care about completion percentage. I like that number that shows that, like, I don't quit games. I do play them to finish, so it makes me feel like I've seen everything the game has to offer, and that's what I want. Like, most of the time, that's where my original like trophy hunting love like came from. It's like, I saw all the treasures in Uncharted, and I saw like secret stuff, and I was like, this is so cool. Like, I wouldn't have seen this if I didn't trophy hunt. And so, that's what drives me to complete games. And I just get into these places sometimes where I'm like, I'm stressed out. I'm like, I don't want to miss it, but I'm pushing through, and I'm like, if I miss it, I miss it. I can get it again. I can go back. I won't let it stop me. And like I said, I'm also on a timer here. I feel like I started this game, and I don't like to play multiple games at the same time. Like, yes, I'm playing Stardew, but that's like handheld. And then I have my PS5 game, which I'm playing, is Persona 5 Strikers. And February is approaching, as in tomorrow. It's, January 31st. And I just am feeling like, oh crap, the games are about to start releasing. So I want to get this game platinumed, and then, maybe I can use some downtime to just play Stardew Valley, and then I'll jump on these new games. Depending on if I get them first or not.
Yeah, and your trophy of the week is in Persona 5 Strikers, right?
It's not. It's in Stardew.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's in Stardew.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I think that there's a lot of good trophies on that list. No joke. Like, I look through it and I'm like, this is not a bad list. It's just those two missables that I start playing and I'm like, there's like these requests that the game has. So they're like side missions and there's like 89 in the game and you need to complete 50. So there's that's missable. But then it's not that intense. But the intense one is like, there's the main characters and they all have side quests or requests. And those are missable. There's 12 of them. And it's like, those are the ones that you have to get. And I haven't had any requests in the game so far. And I'm 3 hours in and I'm in the first dungeon. And like the guide says, like the first dungeon is where the requests are. And I'm like, where? I haven't got a request. And I even asked some people, I was like, did I miss a request? Like it's supposed to be in the menu. Like whenever I pull up the menu, it doesn't even have a request spot. So I'm like, where is it? It's supposed to be in the first dungeon. Like where the hell is it? And I keep getting stressed out, but I'm sure I'll find it. And then my stress will just evaporate. I'll be like, oh, I got it. There's dates because Persona is very time management type of game. And so, I know that on 8/2, that's whenever the first request is, but I'm only on like 726 and it's the first dungeon. And I'm like, did I accidentally start the first dungeon too early? I don't know. I actually don't know. I don't know how it works. And I don't want to look anything up because I'm spoiler sensitive. So I'm like, I'm not looking anything up. I'm playing this game. So I don't know. It's just such a complicated thing for me. And, I know that, oh man, if any regular people listen to this podcast and they're like not trophy hunters, they're like, this is the stupidest thing to worry about. You should just be enjoying the game. And it's like, I am enjoying the game. But I'm also sitting there like, where's that request? Where's my first request? Someone said that there's like a tutorial that pops up with the first request. So I'm like, that's like not missable. But for some reason, I feel like it is. So it's weird. It's just a really weird thing that trophy hunters and achievement hunters go through, I feel like.
Yeah, definitely.
It's so unique.
Yeah, do you want to go to trophy and achievement of the week?
My trophy of the week is this trophy called Fector's Challenge. And this is in Stardew. And it's like this little arcade cabinet in the back of the saloon, and it's called Journey of the Prince King, and the trophy is for beating it, Journey of the Prairie King, without dying. And I've heard this is the hardest trophy in Stardew, and it's also the one that takes the most, but I've also heard that it's been patched, so it's not as hard anymore. But I actually don't know what that means, and if it was patched specifically like on Vita, because I've been, watching like beginner videos of how, like what I should be doing in Stardew, and I'm seeing the Switch version a lot, or the PC version, and I just am blown away by how different it looks, and like how much...
Well, yeah, you'd assume support for the Vita version would probably drop first, right? Yeah, because the platform in its entirety isn't being supported anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I'd also heard that achievement and trophy is sort of like the only like properly tough one in the game.
Yeah.
Because a lot of that game is so like relaxing and you can take stuff at your own pace and everything. So yeah. I need to get to Stardew. You were talking about it, and I know people who love that game, and I've seen great things, but it's just about finding the right opportunity to give it a try. In terms of my achievement of the week, I'm going to go with, it's from Nobody Saves the World. The achievement list for the Pedestrian and Condemned are both really boring. I was thinking of them at first because I've been playing them more, but like the Condemned one, because it's like so early 360, it's literally like the most basic achievements you could think of, although they're quite easy, so that's always nice. There's some early 360 games that are a total nightmare. You get like 10 gamer score for doing some impossible bullshit or whatever. It's like, or back in the day when difficulty achievements wouldn't stack, so you'd have to beat the game like 8 times or whatever. But yeah, so couldn't find any gold in either of those games for achievement of the week. But from Nobody Saves the World, I've gone for What Are You Buying?, which is a reference to Resident Evil 4's Merchant, who I love. Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 8 both have amazing merchant characters that support you on your journey, and still are also quite creepy and really add to the atmosphere. So any achievement that reminds me of the Resident Evil 4 merchant, or the Duke from Resident Evil 8, or anything like that, I'm happy about. And so the achievement is to just make a purchase from the shop, because that game has its own creepy merchant as well, which is really cool for world building and atmosphere. And I need to get back to that game because it has a lot of charm and a lot of personality, and I was enjoying it, although it was a bit slow to start off.
All right, well, shorter episode today, but I had some fun. Do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, this was great. I mean, just thinking about like how different the gaming landscape feels now compared to 2 weeks ago, it's crazy. So hopefully things calm down for at least 2 weeks.
That would be nice. I'm ready for it to calm down. This whole shit, I have to think about it, you know? There's like so much information that you have to absorb to really get your final thoughts, but you know, my initial thoughts are just whatever. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm like so over this acquisitions right now on both sides, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I guess everybody, thanks for listening. Peace, happy hunting.
See ya.
Thank you so much for listening to Complete Edition. If you like the content, consider supporting us on patreon.com/completion club. If you have any questions or would like to reach us, email completionclub@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to Complete Edition.